Okay, so to the best of your ability, close your eyes and imagine an apple on a table. I'm not going to give you any other details. So as you observe what's going on in your mind, here's the question. Can you see the apple? Now, if you clicked on this video, you're probably wondering what visualizers actually experience when they say they see something in their mind. I've been doing this work for about 7 years, and I find that there's a lot of misunderstanding, and the term see doesn't really do the experience up here justice. So by the end of this video, I'm going to try to clarify what it is that people experience when they say they see something in their mind. And potentially some of you might realize that you see a little more in your mind than you thought. So first we're going to talk about why the term see is misleading, how it sets improper expectations of what the mind's eye experience is like. And then we're going to go ahead and talk about how this misunderstanding leads to much confusion and actual improper diagnoses, self-diagnoses. And then I'll do my best to clarify what the mind's eye experience is actually like in my preferred terms. So now when visualizers say they see the apple in their mind, what are they actually experiencing? Talking with most visualizers, most of us would assume that they see physically dancing imagery in front of their face like a hologram. Think of like when Tony Stark is wearing the Iron Man suit, right? And he's in there and he sees all these holograms in front of him. After 7 years, I find that this is not accurate to what the mind's eye experience is actually like. For most visualizers, I'll say. See, when you're visualizing in your mind's eye, we're using physical visual language like the word see, but the experience of visualization isn't typically physical in that kind of sense. And it seems that most languages have this issue with the word see, where we're using it to describe an internal mental experience. So going back to the apple scenario from earlier, now you might not see anything, sure, but what you want to do is ask yourself, what is there? How is your mind processing the thought of the apple? Is it just words in your mind, or is it something else? So here's the good news. Just because you don't see anything when you close your eyes doesn't necessarily mean that you have or experience aphantasia. And this is where the word see really becomes an issue. We assume that it's talking about a physical vision experience. If we're not careful, it'll make it sound like we actually have a physical experience when we're using our mind's eye. So if we're expecting that people are seeing holograms when they're saying that they see something in their mind, but that's not actually what they're experiencing, now what do they experience? So I find that there are two main types of visualization. One where you see only in your mind, and one where you can see holographic-like imagery in front of you. The first one, very common. When people say they see something in their head, that's what they're talking about, seeing in the mind. The second, the holographic type, not common. It seems like that is not a common type of visualization at all. And unfortunately, this is where most people get tripped up and where some self-misdiagnosis can happen. So now here's the thing. If you are using the holographic type projection experience as a benchmark of whether or not you experience aphantasia, like you're supposed to be seeing like Tony Stark or something, Iron Man in his suit, well, no wonder why you might be under the impression that you have aphantasia. Now, I've been a visual thinker my whole life. I've always thought visually. But I didn't have that projection type visualization until 2010, until I actually started to try to develop it. Before that, it was all just in my mind, in my mind's eye. Now remember, I've been coaching people in this stuff since 2018, and I've taken many years to try to find the best possible language to describe these experiences that I can. So that's what you're getting today. And if you want to talk to me directly, there's a link down in the description. You can book a call with me, we can have a chat. Okay, now, so I'm gonna drop this really important piece here. It's time to clarify the word see. If one isn't physically seeing when they're using their mind's eye, well, what are they experiencing? So my favorite way to describe the mind's eye is that it's a feeling of sight without ever actually seeing anything. A feeling, not anything physical. It's a sense of sight. So have you ever got a song stuck in your head? Some of you with a mind's ear will be able to say yes to that. When you have a song stuck in your head, it's not typically confusing if the sound is coming from the room, right? That would be like a physical sound. Instead, you have the tones and the song itself playing in your mind. This is the same exact way when you visualize. It's not physically seeing anything, it's a sense of that visual that kicks in your mind to varying degrees. And oftentimes in my coaching program, when people get their first breakthroughs, they say the same thing. They say, that was weird, I felt like I could see something, but I didn't actually see anything. And to that I respond, exactly, that's like exactly what the mind's eye feels like. That's what we're looking for. So now this miscommunication shows up everywhere. In forums, you'll see it questioned almost daily. Do people physically see anything? Do people actually see anything when they close their eyes? And oftentimes you'll see people say things like, well, I can't visualize, but I know what it looks like. I have the concept of what it looks like. I remember what it looks like. When people use those terms, those are red flag terms for me that there may actually be some visual information embedded in that thought type, especially if they're not processing that thought in just words. And unfortunately, the reality is if this stays unclear, clear that many people will think they have aphantasia, but they may in fact have a very functional mind's eye. But they may lack that projected imagery like Iron Man, which most people also do not seem to be doing. And this is a huge point because this can have some very lasting ramifications. It could lead to training failures where you're not sure what you're aiming at, you have no idea how to practice. It could lead to a lot of self-doubt and frustration. And then comments like this will pop up on videos of mine and forums all over the place. Think of an apple, you don't see it? Aphantasia. No, not quite that simple, not quite that simple. What we want to ask is how you're thinking of the apple. How? So to wrap things up, remember that no concept, remember these types of processing in your mind could potentially house visual information. What you'd want to ask yourself is how are those things processed in your mind? And my favorite litmus test for aphantasia is if somebody's processing in just words, that's probably an indicator that they're experiencing aphantasia. If you're processing in some other way than any other way, then it may not be aphantasia. It may be some sort of sensory processing that you're doing. And if you're closing your eyes and waiting for something to appear like Iron Man, unfortunately, you're going to be waiting a while and you're not looking for the right thing. And going back to the apple scenario, the question should never have been, do you see the apple? The question should have always been, how do you experience thinking of the apple? And if you keep asking yourself these sorts of things and digging in, you may actually uncover some different types of thought processes that were so subtle that you weren't initially aware of them. So let's go ahead and play with this. Close your eyes and think back to that apple again. Now ask yourself, how am I thinking of that apple? What is happening in my mind to cause the apple to come to mind? Are any of my thoughts outside of just words? If so, what are they? How are they being processed? I would love to hear your experience here, so feel free to comment down below. And that's it for today. I will see you next time.